You're listening to Cat Tales.
Hi, I'm Kat and welcome to Cat Tales. In 1977, when singer-songwriter Judie Tzuke signed to Elton John's Rocket label, she couldn't have imagined that 40 years later she would still be performing. Her biggest success came a couple of years later with album Welcome to the Cruise and a single Stay With Me Till Dawn reaching number 16 in the UK singles chart. Since then, she's released a series of quality albums and lent her talents to albums by artists such as Tom Baxter and Morcheeba. Judie's music has also been sampled by the likes of Mylo, and her cover of Lives in the Balance was featured in a popular TV series by order of the Peaky Blinders. This is the one with Judie Tzuke. Hi Judy.
Hello Kat.
Welcome to the show, and it's a pleasure to be speaking to you, Judy. I have been a fan for a long time.
Oh, thank you very much.
The last time I actually saw you was, crikey, it must have been about 2000. So it's a while back, and I was looking forward to coming to see what your next tour.
Oh.
I mean, the tour I saw you on was the Queen's Secret Keeper back in, I think it was 2001. So, but you're out there again in September, hopefully, aren't you?
No, well, it's just been moved again because the government are not letting gatherings happen, I think. So as far as, I think it's been moved now to April next year, unfortunately, or fortunately, because at least it's still happening. But we're kind of, at the mercy of what we're told we can and can't do. I would be there in a heartbeat. But I don't think that the people who are coming to see me would probably be allowed to.
Yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? It's messed up everybody's plans, hasn't it? But when it all happens, it will be so much better. I think that's what we've got to think.
I just hope that by next year we're back in the situation where we can do all these live gigs, because, it's terrible for the music business. Well, not business, because it's terrible for musicians, because all of us are stuck, and most of us are not looked after by the government in any shape or form, and all the theatres and the venues and everything. I don't want to get bit dark and heavy, but we're all struggling right now.
Yeah.
And we all just want to be out playing and doing what we love doing.
Yeah, a lot of people I've been speaking to recently are saying exactly the same thing, Judy, and how frustrating it is as well, because you're a performer at the end of the day, aren't you? And if you can't perform, it's almost like clipping your wings, isn't it?
No, well, what I've actually done, because I've been at home on my own, because I was quite ill, so I sort of took myself away from everyone for basically for over a month really, and went a bit crazy and started wanting to write songs again. And my friend Ben, who I've worked with a lot in the past, I called him and he sent me some tracks that he made of music, and I've written 4 songs with him in the last month, and we're literally just writing them and putting them out on Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, all this, Spotify, everything. And it's really exciting because I've never been able to do that in that way. Because normally when you make an album, you make the album, you write the album, then you make the album. It takes ages, and then it comes out probably a year after you've written it. So for me, then I'm sort of not as in love and excited by everything as I am when I've first written it. So these 4 songs that are all out. They're all about the things that I'm feeling and thinking right now.
Excellent, I love that. And it's been a time really where it makes people sit and think about everything, doesn't it? Reflection, looking for the future, experiences now
and
are
for
different.
all the terrible things that are happening, I do think that a lot of people have got a huge amount of emotional benefit to sort of think about stuff and notice nature again, and think about who they are and take some time and rest a bit. I know there's also the complete worry about how we're all going to survive and pay our mortgages and pay our bills, but we're all still here at the moment, so
exactly. And I think that's the way to look at it.
Definitely good and bad. Silver linings, I think they call it, don't they?
Yeah, there's a flip side of the coin, isn't there? There's good on one and bad on the other. There's always a balance in the world somewhere, which is good. So all this new music that you're doing, then, you're putting out onto the digital platform straight away, which is not normally the process, is it, as you say?
No, and it's really done. I mean, they are songs that I am so happy with. And they are versions that I'm really happy with. They're not posh studio, take forever to sort of make. They're instant, and they're me and Ben. That's all there is, really. Although one of them's actually got my son-in-law, Matt, on drums as well, because we sent the tape to him, and he sat in his roof and recorded drums on it, which is really in his attic. So it's just, they're like my little thing. I mean, I guess they're probably what I would normally do, and then later on we would go in the studio and spend ages on them and make them probably not as good as the demos. They're a different thing for me, and they're really important. And I think in all my interviews I've always said to people that I do music because I have to, because I love it, because it's like an emotional exercise for me, because I can be quite an emotional person. If I don't get it out of my system, if I don't write a song about stuff, it stays inside me, and I can be a bit depressive. But if I write about things and do something positive with my thoughts and feelings, then I feel much better and lighter and happier, and I'm so lucky to do that. So it's been fantastic to be able to do this like this whilst in lockdown and just get excited and about it all. And it's a shame I can't go out and do it live yet, but I will.
Yeah, that's going to form your next tour, isn't it, really, all being well? Along with your...
Well, I'm starting a new album as well, a new sort of album that will be starting quite soon. Not quite yet. I mean, the lockdown thing is my first thing, and my big love at the moment is the lockdown songs.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That sounds very intriguing. So are they out there now for people to download, or is it going to be something that comes out soon?
No, there's 2 already, and by the time you put this out, I think there should be the 3rd one. So there's one called Birds and Time, which was the first one, which is really about sort of nature and my family and the worries that I think I had when I first went into lockdown, wanting everyone to be all right and actually noticing nature and noticing wonderful things. So that's called Birds and Time. And then the next one's called Hydra. And Hydra I watched a documentary while I was not very well here at home on my own about Leonard Cohen, about the time when he spent on an island in the Greek islands called Hydra or Hydra, or there's even a funnier pronunciation that I can't do. But I chose Hydra because it sounded the most natural to me. And I just watched this program, and it was so beautiful, and it just made me wish that I was a bit older, because when he was in Hydra I was pretty young, and much too young to go there, but it was kind of like a European Woodstock sort of thing, and had loads of artists, lots of musicians. It's just a very beautiful place and a beautiful atmosphere, and I just fell into it, really. I felt like I was there, and so I wrote a song about that called Hydra. And then the next one, which is my slightly crosser one, about the things that I'm a bit worried and angry about, is coming out possibly on tomorrow. But I'm not exactly sure, because when we gave it to the company that puts it up, you usually specify a date, but we forgot. So we don't exactly know when it's going to be up, but any minute, I think. That's called Idiot Kings.
Oh, wow.
And it's I'm excited about it. I'm very proud of it. It is angrier and darker than I would normally do. But I think, there's all sorts of feelings in this lockdown. As you said, we're all, discovering and thinking a lot more and noticing more.
Yeah, exactly. And what you've just described there, it's almost like the journey you've taken through lockdown, isn't it? You start by, let's hope we're all right, please, It's the shock, isn't it? And then you start noticing things you've not for a while, and then you started to sort of go back retrospectively to things, and then it's like, well, hold on a second. I'm not very happy about
and
this.
Funny enough, you're very right, because the last one that I've got, which will be out in probably about 2 or 3 weeks' time, is actually all about how I have survived it.
Yeah.
And how it hasn't been, well, I've survived it so far, let's say. I might end up doing a 5th one, but the plan was to do 4, and we've written and done 4. And so, yes, the one after the angry one is not so angry and a bit more kind of surprised and relieved that all the things that I was most terrified of, one being probably my biggest fear, is always being to be alone. And I had to be. in this instance. And remarkably, it wasn't too bad. You know, it wasn't what I expected. I liked my company more than I expected.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You get these learnings, don't you, about yourself as well. And I think everybody's experienced that. It's been a strange time that's put us into unprecedented situations for ourselves, I guess. And so that was one of your fears of like, oh God, can I spend all that time on my own? And you've actually quite liked yourself.
Well, I have to say, when I was actually ill, and I was very ill, I mean, I haven't been tested, so I don't know for sure, although the doctors all thought that I had COVID. I was too frightened to go to hospital, otherwise I probably should have. But I got through it, but it was very scary at nights, you know. I went to bed and kept thinking, I might die tonight. I might wake up and just die, or I might not wake up, you know. And that was really terrifying, being alone, feeling like that. But I got through it, and I didn't die, and I'm still here. And I'm back, very much back into music. I'm working all the time now, and actually I think the fact that I've put out these 2 songs so far has sort of reminded people that I'm here, and I've had a lot of people calling me, asking me to work with them and asking me to sing on things, and so, you know, it's fantastic. I don't think I'm going to get rich on my lockdown songs, but I don't care, because I do music because I love it.
They've rescued me, throwing me back at the land, and all the tears they've been drowning me. I almost lost who I am. When Leonard speaks of Hydra, I swear I should have been there in the mist that hangs on the sea. I was born too late, and this body aches, but the ocean still flows through me. When the ocean still flows through me. All the lights seem so far away. It's hard to see where they lead, and all the rain hits me every day when I know the best behind me. When I visualize the island, I swear it could have happened, and I almost believe I was there. I was born too late, and this body aches, but the ocean still flows through me. And the ocean still flows through me. This body aches, but the ocean still flows through me, and the ocean still flows through me.
Hello, this is Judie Tzuke, and you're listening to Cat's Tales. The song Hydra is a very sunshiny song. But yeah, I think Hydra's a nice song. Memories of it brings back feelings of being in beautiful places by the sea and the ocean. It's got a nice sunny vibe to it.
I mean, look, going back to, your early career where Stay With Me Till Dawn was in, the singles chart, number 16, didn't make the number one, which, I'm just thinking as an artist, I would have probably been like, oh, it didn't get there. But my question around that was that important?
It did get to number one in Australia.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Great.
And that was a really funny thing. When I arrived in Australia to do, I had to do a 10-day sort of visit to Australia because I'd done really well out there. But I didn't really know that. It wasn't like now where you'd see on social media what was happening. When I arrived in Australia on the plane and I got off and walked into the airport, there were loads of people, like, not screaming, but very excited. And I got, like, chased down the road in my taxi and had to do all these programs, and didn't realise that I was number one in one of the places and number two in others. It's a bit like America. You can be number one in the sort of like one area in the country and number two or three in another. They all have slightly different charts. But yes, anyway, Carrie, you were saying.
Oh,
so
no,
back in the day.
Yeah, that's absolutely wonderful, though, isn't it? So you've had that number one, but I was thinking here, if you're in the charts, you want to get it up as far as you can, don't you? But for you, was that the important thing, or was it really just about getting your music out there and getting people to hear it?
I think that definitely. Do you know what? I don't think I ever really thought about it. I don't think. I mean, I started writing songs when I was pretty young. I wrote little lyrics in my diary. I used to write a diary, and at the end of the day, I'd sort of write a little short sort of poem thing, summing up each day. And then I had a teacher that I had a massive crush on, and he was into Bob Dylan, and so I sort of started. This is short, but I started teaching myself guitar and making these little poems a bit longer, and writing little songs to play him. Of which he was fantastic, and he thought they were. Well, he told me he thought they were great. They were probably awful, but
sure they weren't.
And it kind of went on from there. I think if I'd have sat down and decided what I wanted to do with my life, it probably wouldn't have been to be on stage, because I have to say that side of things has taken me, for about 38 years to actually understand and to be able to go on stage and enjoy it. Because I was always so nervous that my nerves would make me not able to do what I could do as well as I could do, because I was too nervous. So I was always terrified of being looked at, terrified of being on stage. But I love writing songs and I love singing songs. But I got very ill 7 years ago. I had cancer, and lots of things changed, and I had to kind of decide what to do when I got better, and I couldn't really afford to take a big band out, and I also wasn't in any emotional state to do that. So we started doing small venues, like 50 to 100 seaters, and that was just me and a guitarist. And I suddenly realized that I love my audience. I stopped being so terrified, and I started enjoying who I was playing with and who I was meeting and how it felt to be in a small stage. And that's kind of built up again now. And, I've done, last year I did a big tour with Beverly Craven and Julia Fordham. Yeah. We all went out together and we took a band and we had a string section, and it was amazing. And I did really enjoy that. So I think for me, music happened by accident. Music didn't happen by accident. My career happened by accident. And it makes no difference to me whether I'm earning money from it or whether I'm just doing it because I'll do it anyway. That's the case. I would always make music and write songs and love doing that. The fact that I was able to have a career from it is incredible, and I feel really lucky that that's the case. But I put music out because I want people to hear it. But it's not about being a pop star or a much, I don't know what I call myself now, if I was successful or more successful. I do want people to hear it.
Yeah, I thought that about you because I've heard before that you've mentioned about being nervous going on stage and not really enjoying that performance part of it. Is it the fact that you're actually seeing the audience? Is that the bit that makes you feel uncomfortable, or?
No, it's that they're seeing me.
Yeah,
it's that they're looking at me, and I come from an era when you were very much judged. I mean, it's crazy now, but I had sort of mild anorexia when I was at school. I went to a ballet school, and it was a very complicated sort of emotional thing. But, you know, normal to me, size-wise, was like ballet dancers. And my body's not like that. It never was like that. And so when I went on stage, I wasn't fat at all. I wasn't big, but in my head, I certainly thought I was enormous. And some of the reviews that I got were very unkind, sort of, you know, mentioning that I was dumpy or round, and I wasn't. And that's the awful thing. I look back on it and I look at pictures and I'm horrified by what I was made to feel.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't those things. But, you know, I think being looked at, I've always been embarrassed. I've never felt comfortable in myself because I always felt that I should look like a ballet dancer.
Yeah.
And I think that's what started. And then being that nervous and being that uncomfortable makes you literally shake. And when I'm shaky and, you know, like with nerves, my voice doesn't work properly. And when that happens, I can't sing as well as I can. I should be able to. I also can't remember the words. And I was terrified always of forgetting the words. And I frequently did, actually. And it became a bit of a thing with my audience, which was fantastic, was because if I'd forget one line one night, my brain would click into that and do it every night.
Yeah.
And so my fans, or I don't like calling them fans, the people that came to see me used to write big placards with the line that I would forget and hold it up at the time, which then would get me through, which then would take that away, and the next day I'd be all right again.
Oh,
but
you know, that's
I'm
wonderful.
just not. I'm not someone who wants to be the centre of attention. Ever. I've never wanted that. I still don't want that, you know. But I do love singing in front of people as long as they like me. I also thought that everyone had sort of come to see me fail, which I've no idea where that came from. I was convinced that everyone would just go out after every gig, oh, she's not as good as she used to be, or she's, you know, she's all these things that reviewers would say. I think I was quite damaged by the whole being famous and being written about in, I think, quite a callous, shallow fashion by some of the journalists that wrote about me back then. Not all of them, a lot of them, but it was more like that then.
Exactly. I was about to say that. That's sort of, it was a different time, wasn't it? And I think particularly women were judged far more than men. And, you know, you've ended up on posters and you've ended up on, you know, sort of promotional material. That must have been really hard, because I can relate exactly to what you're saying there, Judie. I'm thinking...
well, my brother used to sell my T-shirts. He used to do the merchandise. And he used to take great joy in saying what the girls or what the people were saying about the pictures, you know, because you had to sell posters and stuff, and he used to say, girls used to stand there and go, God, she's not very tall, is she? I thought she was much taller. Oh, she's quite big. I mean, actually, and I've forgotten the guy's name, but there's a very famous actor that I met, and he was he was a terrible person, I think. I was very, you know, keen to make a good impression because he was a very good friend of mine, and I was introduced, and he said, oh, hello. He said, I didn't realise you were so short or so fat. And I wasn't fat at all. But he just thought it was funny to say that.
But you see, those things are so damaging, aren't they? You know,
yeah.
I'm speechless. I bet you were at the time as well. I'd have gone out the room and cried.
I cried for days.
Yeah.
Which really, I met him much later on. It wasn't much more successful meeting either. But I met him later on, and he did apologise. But he said to me, I don't know why you were so bothered. I'm no oil painting. And I remember thinking, he sort of said it again, and then it all got bad again. And so I can't remember his name, otherwise I'd tell you, but I won't tell you. Probably shouldn't anyway. But he's a famous man. He is a famous man.
Oh, I can't believe that. That's just a terrible, terrible thing to do, isn't it, to somebody?
Yeah.
People say these things without appreciating the consequence, don't they, I think?
Well, I think they also think that if you're a bit famous, then you must be a bit up yourself, so they'll bring you down a peg or two. And I never was up myself, and I certainly, you know, wasn't expecting, or I don't think I deserved what, you know, the way that he spoke to me.
No, that's terrible. And I get the bit where you're looking back and you're going, do you know what, I wasn't fat. I mean, I felt it at the time. I mean, I think we've all done that with a picture and go, oh my God, if I was only that fat now, I'd be so happy.
Exactly. Well, I think that's right. And I think to do with my ballet training, because it wasn't just a ballet school that I went on Saturdays, it was a full-time boarding ballet school where that's what our life was. And, I think it does bring out a lot of issues in girls. And I mean, I think I also had quite severe body dysmorphia. So that the only good thing about that is I am now an awful lot bigger and an awful lot older, but I'm still the same as I thought I was back then. So it's not such a shock.
It's strange, isn't it, how our minds work? It really is. But I suppose that's the journey that you're on through life, isn't it? And hopefully, as you get older, you appreciate that actually it doesn't really matter. And it's about how I feel and how I make others feel that's the most important.
Yes, it is. And I know, having 2 children, 2 girls, I realised very quickly that my slight obsession with my size as I was growing up, I really didn't want to pass that on to them. And I absolutely understand that it isn't about the way you look, it's how you are inside. But, if we're all honest, we all have a bit of that going on. And even not teaching my children any of my complete obsession, they're still girls. It's the same with boys too. Everyone wants to look and feel as healthy as they can, really, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And I guess a lot of people are also maybe just realising that now with all this lockdown that, do you know what, it's myself, my body, that really matters. And
but the main thing is if your body actually keeps you alive, and mine has through cancer and through COVID, so I've got to kind of respect and love it. I just like a bit less of it.
Well, I think you look gorgeous, so don't worry about that.
Oh, thank you.
Don't you worry.
Thank you very much.
Oh, so that experience of having cancer a few years ago, you've mentioned that, I mean, and how it's sort of helped in a way because you've had to go back to the start with smaller audiences and build up again. Did it actually change anything else in your life? Has it changed your outlook at all?
Yes, it has. I'm not sure quite how, though. When I had it, I really wanted to get sort of on the radio and on the news and sort of talk to people about go and get checked, go and do all these things. But because my cancer, I had no symptoms. So it was just pure kind of luck that it was found. So I couldn't tell anyone other than to just go and have checks all the time what to do. I feel I unfortunately haven't been able to get rid of the feeling that it might still be inside me and it could come out at any time. And I think that's quite normal I know my friend Beverly Craven, she had cancer. Well, she's had it twice. And she said the same thing, that she always feels like it's a bit of a time bomb, that could go off at any time. I do feel that. But that's not actually, it's not a negative, it's a kind of reality in that I'm not afraid of it. I'm just like, well, it's going to happen one day. And I do live a bit like trying to enjoy where I am every day now more than I maybe would have. I feel I don't take my health for granted. I am a bit afraid, I suppose, of getting it again, just of how I would, where it would be and what it would mean, and also, my family and stuff. But me, myself, I think it's made me, oh, God, it's difficult to explain. I'm not sure that I can really explain it. I am different. And I do appreciate things like my music and being able to sing live and meeting my audiences and learning not to be so terrified of being on stage and understanding that really my audience and me, we're all very alike. We've probably all had, lots of us have had cancer, lots of us have recovered, lots of us have got children, lots of us are worried about the world, lots of us are happy in the world. I think it made me feel not quite so terrified of failing, because I think most people do at some point.
Yeah, you're so right. And actually, we're all the same, aren't we? And so when you're standing up there in front of your audience, if you reversed it and they were standing up there, they'd feel the same as well, wouldn't they? Let's be honest.
I think so.
And most people don't want you to fail. And I mean, I get that completely when you're sort of like performing and you think, there's people on there, they're looking, they've noticed I've gone wrong. And actually, they're not. They're actually just wanting to enjoy the experience. It's
Yes, and I think I've realised that now. And I guess the cancer made me, I did a show, one of the first shows I did after I had cancer was in London, in the Union Chapel, which is an amazing place to play. And I got a throat infection before. Now, I think before I had cancer, I would have recovered quicker. But I think my body was a bit exhausted after treatment and stuff. And it didn't go. But I thought that I could get on there, and with the adrenaline and the nerves, I could sing. But when I got up on stage, and I had a full band and my daughters and a full house, and it was incredible, I started to sing, and I sounded like a toad. And nothing would work. It just wouldn't sing. And I was like, this is it. This is that moment that I can't sing. I don't remember the words. I looked dreadful because I wasn't well and I had a temperature. You know, I was in a right old state. But I did the gig. My daughters helped out. They sang along with me. And, you know, we got through the gig. And I got 3 standing ovations. And I was quite drunk as well because I was in such a state on stage. Yeah. I just thought, they're all going to hate me. It's going to be the end of the world. You know, I just do this gig and I'll go home and I'll hide under the bed and I won't come out. I had so much communication from the people in the audience saying how amazing it was to see me doing that. And I mean, it still makes me emotional. And that is kind of where it changed everything. Yeah. So, you know, cancer itself didn't change that much. But the consequences of cancer changed everything.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting really emotional listening to you with that on that, you know, that story. That's incredible, Judie, just standing up there and it all sort of like...
It was incredible. The audience sang all of my songs with me so loud that it didn't matter that I couldn't sing.
Oh, how wonderful.
You know.
That just shows you the human spirit. They weren't about you failing. It was about you succeeding. And they saw that human element and they just wanted to lift you up and say, it's okay. Right. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, it makes you feel like you're on top of the world when you hear that. But at the time, I bet you thought, oh my God.
Oh, it was terrible. Yeah. Whilst I was doing it, I was just standing there thinking, this is just the end. It's just, everyone's going to, you know, if anyone writes any reviews, it's just going to be dreadful. It's just going to be terrible. I'm so awful. And I might as well just go home and go back to bed and not come out, you know. But it wasn't like that. And I still get people going, oh my God, I wish I'd have been there. And I'm going, no, you don't. You wish you'd have been at one where I sang really well and I did everything the way I wanted to, you know. But I recognise how amazing that gig was, and that gig definitely changed my life.
Oh, that's an amazing story. That's absolutely incredible. Really, it really is. I am welling up, honestly.
Yeah, I am too, but I'm all right now. I've calmed down now.
So how did you get...
such a light interview. I'm sorry.
No, it's great.
On a day that's full of everything, good and bad.
My kind of conversation, Judie. No, I'm loving it. It's really nice to talk about life rather than just, you know, how did you write that last song? It's sometimes nice to think about the human being, isn't it, with everything? But, you know, I'm curious as to how you then got back on stage the next time. That must have been such a devastation from that performance that you thought, I can't do it, especially when you've got
it was, although it was an instant sort of... I instantly saw how amazing my audience were. Yeah. And I realised that me being on stage was not all it was about. It was about the whole night and everyone and their experience and my experience. And it's where my nerves sort of stopped. Not stopped. I'm always still nervous when I go on stage, but not to the point that I used to be, I think, unable to actually give what I can give on stage. Now I feel when I go on stage... It does depend on an audience. I talk a lot now as well to the audience. I never used to speak. What I ended up doing was doing this thing called Songs and Stories, which was me, my guitarist, usually one of my daughters, and we'd just talk about things on stage, and the audience could ask me questions, and you know, it was no holds barred really, and it was fun, and I got to know my audience and got to love them and realise that they have a love for me, which is, you know, very precious.
Oh, that's wonderful. Do you know, it's been an absolute delight speaking to you. I could speak to you all day, but I'm sure you've got other things to do.
I've got to go shopping because I've got my granddaughter coming to stay tonight, so I've got to go and get some food and new pyjamas, I think, because she hasn't been able to come for 3.5 months. But now my daughter and her family and me, we're, support bubbling or whatever.
Yes, that's right. Yes, we're all in a bubble now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Oh well, I'm sure you'll have an absolutely delightful time, because it's going to be sort of it almost marks the end of this horrible period. But let's hope it is the end and it doesn't resurrect itself. But hey, that's
I hope so, and that would also fit very well with my lockdown EP, because as I say, the next one after this one that's coming out possibly tomorrow. If anyone's interested, if they go and look on Spotify or iTunes or whatever, they can find them. But the one that's coming out tomorrow is the angry one. The next one is the sort of surviving lockdown.
Brilliant. And then
who knows? It would be great if it did all sort of end at the same time.
Well, it would. Let's hope the timing all comes right for you. I'm sure it will. Oh, well, thank you so much for giving me your time. All right, you take care. Speak soon.
Okay, you do. Bye.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Cat Tales. To listen again to this and other tales, go to cattales.co.uk.